What is going on, guys? So today I'm going to do something a little bit different, just sitting here in my little chair so I'm not standing up over there, because what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through my Instagram DMs and answer your questions on camera, as well as actually typing it back to you. So I think this is going to be pretty interesting. This is also, something for me to do, to sit here for the next 30, 45 minutes, an hour, and actually just go through and answer your guys' questions. So this is going to be interesting. I hope you guys enjoy it. Alright, so the first question I got here is from Jessica, and she is telling me that she signed up in the reserves for a 6-year contract, and her recruiter was telling her that there is no 4-year contracts, which is what she actually wanted. She wanted a 4-year contract, but recruiter told her there isn't any 4-year contracts in reserves. It's only 3 or 6 years, and she basically wants to know if that's true or not. And yeah, that's true. At least for me, I remember going, there was only 3-year contracts and there was only 6-year contracts for the reserves. The reason being is, in the reserves, it's not as big of a deal. So there's not much of a difference really between doing a 3-year contract or a 4-year contract. And then the benefits are different. So if you do a 3-year contract in the reserves, you're not going to get all the benefits, whenever it really comes to the GI Bill and everything, as you would if you did a 6-year contract. So that's a reason why a lot of people will end up just going for the 6-year contract in the reserves. And also, it's a little bit different than doing a 6-year contract active duty, because if you do a 6-year contract active duty and you hate the military, then you've got a 6-year job that you got to do. If you do a 6-year contract in the reserves and you hate the military, it's not as big of a deal. Got another question here, I think from Marguerite. I think that's her name. That's actually pretty cool. If it is your name, or hopefully I'm not butchering it terribly. But basically, you're saying here that, you're joining the military as a woman. You're wanting to do airborne infantry, so you want to be an infantry soldier. As a female who's 5'1", you're 20 years old, and you want to know some advice, right? That's basically your question here. And I've made a video talking about, females joining the military, females joining combat MOSs, and this is basically my response to reiterate that, because that video is super old. I think that females joining the military is obviously becoming way more widely accepted, especially in the combat MOSs, but there's still that little bit of pushback from some males. And I said this in that one video that people hated on, and I said those pushback from other people. I personally don't care. If you're a female and you can do the job, go infantry, that is freaking amazing. But there's other guys out there who don't feel the same way about that, and they look at you and they're like, oh, females have a lower PT standard. They're barely passing, if a female is passing the run, right, for the PT test, they're probably close to failing or failing the run for the male PT test. And a lot of the military, from my experience, is really getting the respect from the people around you. And whether you're a male or a female, you need to get respect from your peers. You don't want to be that one person who everybody hates, or else you're gonna have a really bad time. You don't want to be that one female who is just always I guess dragging everybody down. You don't be that one guy who's always dragging everybody down, who's failing the PT test. So my biggest thing is just try your best all the time. Don't ever just come up with excuses. It's kind of a general advice here. I've never seen a guy talk about a female who is maxing out her PT test, who isn't falling out of ruck marches. And I have seen guys, not me, again, I don't care about this, but I have seen guys who, when a female falls out of ruck marches, every single time, whether it's a guy or female, but when a female does it, they will bad talk them, right? So, or they'll talk about me like, oh my gosh, I gotta carry this, weapon because she can't carry it, or whatever. So you don't want to be that person, whether you're a male or a female. So that's really my advice. Just a little pro tip for you guys: if you ask me a question on social media, especially if it's just gonna be a quick question, just go ahead and ask it instead of asking me if you can ask me a question. Because if I end up opening your message and you're asking to ask a question, and then I'm like, yeah, sure, and then you reply, and then I have 15 other people reply, it might get lost. So if you message me on social media, and you want to ask me a question or whatever, just ask it rather than asking to ask a question. Alright, so we got Brock here, and he is leaving for basic training on June 27th. So coming up here really soon. And he's saying he's basically nervous about the drill sergeants and what he should do to have them not get mad at you. And it's really going to be difficult to have them, not yell at you, not smoke at you, just period throughout basic training. But there are things that you can do, or not do really in this case, to have the drill sergeants not be mad at you. Drill sergeants are, even though they yell at you a lot, they're very intimidating, they're actually pretty simple, right? So when they ask you to do something, they want it to be done exactly to the T of how they asked you to do it, right? So if they ask people to be somewhere at a certain time as well, they want you to be there not on the minute, but like before. So you need to be on time everywhere. And when this doesn't happen, or whenever you're not being accountable for your belongings or your other soldiers and stuff like that, that's when these drill sergeants get pissed. They also get pissed whenever you do stupid things. So if, a drill sergeant tells you all the time, hey, if you want to go to the tree line, which is basically you say, I'm going to go to the tree line because you're going to use the bathroom if you're a male, you'll go. But a lot of people in certain circumstances, they might go and they won't tell anybody where they're going. And that will piss drill sergeants off. Just really simple things, like very simple things. Like you're not going to do anything super stupid. If a drill sergeant tells you to do something and you don't understand what he's saying, just ask him. And then, or if the drill sergeant's saying something, just ask somebody else. Just make sure you understand what's going on. And that's going to lessen the likelihood that you are going to do something that is going to get the drill sergeants upset, which is then going to smoke the entire platoon. It's not super complicated. You shouldn't be too nervous about drill sergeants in general. I think I only got, I've made a video on it actually. I think I only got really in trouble by a drill sergeant one time. Made a video on it, and then other than that, I just did what the drill sergeant asked me to do. I was the platoon leader, and I didn't find this out until the end of basic training. One of the reasons the drill sergeant liked me so much as the platoon leader is because when he would tell me to do something, and he would say, I want the platoon to do this, like exactly like this. I want us to do this, that, and the other, whatever. I did exactly that. If he told me to get 5 people to do something, I did it. I did what he told me to do. So it's not super complicated. I guess you can go back to like Forrest Gump, right? If you've seen Forrest Gump, you know that the drill instructor was like super impressed with Forrest Gump because he just told him to do something and he did it. He told him to do something and he did it. And that's really kind of how to be successful. Just if a drill sergeant doesn't tell you to do something, don't do it. There's very few circumstances where you're going to really think for yourself. Every other circumstance, the drill sergeant's going to tell you what to do. All right, so here's a pretty good one. I've actually never gotten this question before, and I think it's really interesting whenever I get questions that I don't get because I get so many on a daily basis. But Maddie here is asking me, she is a Army girlfriend, and she's wanting to know basically how you will address, people in the military if you're the girlfriend or the spouse of somebody who's in the military. And you're wondering, really what to call the drill sergeant and whatever whenever you, I guess, meet them at graduation. Don't overthink it too much. If you were to be somebody, a future soldier who walks into a recruiter's office and you call a drill sergeant sir, they're gonna be like, don't call me sir, I work for a living, blah, 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 blah. They're gonna be like, don't call me that because they know that you want to join the military. But if you're the spouse of somebody, if you're not actually in the military, you're not actually pursuing joining the military, they're not going to really harp on you that much. So if you call a drill sergeant sir, you say, hey sir, thank you sir for you training my soldier, blah, blah. If a drill sergeant is a female, you can call them ma'am if you want to. So I wouldn't overthink it too much. If you want to call a drill sergeant, that's male or female, you can call them drill sergeant. If you wanted to call them sir just because you don't want to overthink it too much, or maybe you don't know the ranks, and if you actually end up talking to an officer, you don't want to call them by the wrong rank, so you can just call everybody sir or ma'am. Or if you really want to, you can call them drill sergeant. In my opinion, it's really not that big of a deal if you're not in the military. Okay, so now this is really kind of an important question or important topic for people to understand if you're wanting to be an officer in the military. This guy's trying to be an officer in the Army Reserves, and he's wanting to know, he's going to MEPS, and I guess I assume from his message he's going to go the OCS route through basic training. So he's got his degree already, he's going to go to basic training and then go to OCS afterwards. And his concern here is that he wants to do cyber as his officer job, right? So he wants to be a cyber operations officer, I believe is what you would call it, cyber officer, whatever. And he's worried about the whole getting assigned your job as an officer, and whether or not, if he gets something he doesn't like, if he can negotiate what job he's gonna have. And for officers, just so you know, no, that is not the case. You're negotiating for the job that you want. To put yourself in the best position to get the job you want is when you are in training. So you're gonna go to basic training. None of that's really gonna matter whenever it comes to OCS. You're just gonna, I guess, maybe get some experience or whatever. But when you get to OCS and when you get to ROTC and whenever you do these things to be an officer, what you do there on your road to being an officer, all the evaluations that's gonna happen, how you perform on certain tests, how you are graded by your peers. All that is going to be taken into account. It's going to be put in this big algorithm called the OML, which I still need to make a video on that, on how officers get selected. But then once that selection happens, literally a computer is going to select who is going to be in which specific MOS, and it's going to go off of what you want. And then as an officer, you get to tier out, like, your first choice MOS, which for you it's going to be a cyber officer, your second choice and your third choice. And preferably you will want to get one of your top 3. And for you, if you're wanting cyber to be your first pick, I just want to let you know that cyber is definitely right now by far and away the most competitive job to get. By far, it's the most competitive job to get for officers. So just keep that in mind. So hopefully, like for me, you could do signal or something like that. But if you get assigned as an officer another MOS than what you wanted, you will not negotiate that. Like it's set in stone. One last thing that I do want to add here, since you are wanting to be an officer in the reserves, this is something that I have personal experience with. The MOS that you get is going to be specific on the area that you want to go, right? So there's not going to be every position available everywhere in the world. My current duty station that I'm going to be going to drills at is in Houston, Texas. I live in North Carolina. Houston was like the only place where I could really go. There was nothing in North Carolina. If you're wanting to be a cyber officer, there's, as far as I know, only 2 places where you can go, and there's only 10 slots available. 10 slots, 10 out of the whole Army Reserves for this last year cycle. Next year are probably about the exact same, so it's gonna be extremely competitive. So yeah, just keep that in mind when you're creating your, from 1 to 17 or whatever list of all the branches you want as an officer. If you get something that you don't want, that's what you're stuck with. So you need to work really hard, whether it's at OCS or an RTC, to actually, get ranked high on the OML list if you're active duty, and if your reserves is a little bit different. All right, so that is it for my Instagram questions that I'm gonna answer on camera. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Just something a little bit different, just going through my DMs, answering some of the questions. I hope maybe it helped some of you guys out, or even if it didn't, maybe it gave you a better understanding of other things in the military. So if you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button. That would be awesome. If you want to subscribe for more videos, hit the subscribe button. That would be even better if you guys are not following me on Instagram and Snapchat. Social media links are right here. So yeah, hit me up on Instagram, ask me some questions. Don't forget, if you ask me a question, don't ask me to ask a question, because then the reply I will have to physically remember to search through. It's just a little bit difficult. So hit that notification bell button if you have not already. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I will see you later.